I'm really torn on this, so I would definitely appreciate some advice. I'll start off by saying that I have an aunt on my dad's side of the family. She's 50 years old and has 5 kids ranging from 20 to 12 years old. She's always been known to be a freeloader and take advantage of situations and people. One time me and my dad were planning on going to the drive-in, and my dad stupidly told her. She asked if her kids could be included too. I felt pissed because this happened every time me and my dad had something fun planned, just me and him. I'm hoping that you get the idea with what I've given you so far. But anyway, last week I wanted to celebrate my little sister for getting her driver's permit, and I invited all of our family to Olive Garden. By that I mean all of us who live in the same home. I told everyone to clear their schedules for Friday afternoon, because I didn't want anyone to feel left out. Well, that's where I messed up, because my dad told my aunt and told her she could tag along without telling me. We showed up to Olive Garden at around 4:30 p.m, and I asked for a table for 5, me, my dad, my 2 sisters and my grandpa. But my dad said that if they could make it a table for 12. I asked why, and that's when he told me. I was pissed, especially because my aunt and my little sister have history, but I didn't think much of it because I wasn't expecting what was coming up. We're seated, and around 30 minutes later she shows up with all her kids. We eventually order, and she kept ordering expensive dishes and lots of drinks. I was kind of in awe, considering she lives off of food stamps, which I don't shame anyone who does, but she kept ordering like she was Scrooge McDuck on just another Tuesday. The bill eventually comes up and I ask for it to be split. She says in such a grating voice, "What do you mean split, Bill? I thought you were paying for us." That's when it clicked. She only came for the free food. I immediately glared at my dad, who started blaming me, saying, "Why would you offer to pay and then not follow through?" Maybe because I wasn't expecting to pay for another 6 people? I ended up asking the waitress how much it would be because I didn't want to ruin the mood and my little sister's accomplishment. The bill came out to be about $557.87. Excluding what me and my family, my dad, my 2 sisters and my grandpa, ate, it would be about $243.68. I outright refused to pay for her and her kids' meals. I felt as because 2 of them are still kids, but I never invited her myself, let alone agreed to pay for her bill. Now my dad is calling me a jerk because he had to pay for it with his credit card. I don't believe I did anything wrong, but that's the reason I'm here. Am I the idiot? Edit 1. I know I will definitely sound just like any other user saying I was not expecting this to blow up, but I truly mean it. Also, sorry for all of the grammar and spelling mistakes if there is any. English doesn't happen to be my first language. I'd like to thank all of you who gave me truly helpful advice and even gave me some words of encouragement. There are quite a few comments, but I'll make sure to go over each and every one of them. There seems to be some confusion, so I will clarify here, although if you'll need context on something else, let me know in the comments. I'm 18 years old. I currently don't attend college because I'm trying to save up and just taking a gap year. My dad and my aunt have always been close. They were both addicts together, and they both made my mum's life a living nightmare. Some of you suggested that there may be a Sweet Home Alabama type thing going on between them, and I will tell you now that it is nothing of the sort. I may have said a few very specific things about my aunt, like how she has a grating voice, but most of my hatred towards her comes from how my mom would tell me stories on how my aunt and my dad would literally bully my mom, and how one time they left her homeless with me and my 2 sisters being over 3 years old, my little sister being just a few months old. Some of you also said that I was seeking validation to a very obvious dilemma. But everyone around me has turned it on me. Even my grandpa thinks I was wrong for not paying. Some of my friends are even saying I humiliated them because I should have been clear from the start. That's why I decided to ask Reddit. Note that I'm not mad about being told how obvious this may seem. It's just that some people don't know the full extent of the circumstances. I'm already looking for an apartment I can rent out for me and my sisters. I hate that it's come to this, but I am done with my dad's shenanigans. I'll try to update if anything else happens, but for now this is goodbye. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your aunt is a jerk for trying to freeload off of you. Your father is the jerk for inviting his sister without asking your first. Your father is a jerk for expecting you to pay the bill for this aunt. Your father is a jerk for getting mad at you for standing up for yourself and refusing to pay the bill for someone that was not invited and unwanted. So your father is a triple jerk. You are not the idiot OP. Do not reimburse your father. Keep standing up for yourself. Comment 2. I immediately glared at my dad, who started blaming me, saying, "Why would you offer to pay and then not follow through?" Yeah, paying for 5 people you invited and paying for an extra 6 someone else invited are 2 very different scenarios. Your dad is way out of line expecting this to be on your dime, not the idiot. And you need to caveat future invitations by stating the guest list is closed, and if dad protests, he can be off the list too until he learns his lesson. Not the idiot. Comment 3. Way to go. He invited Aunt plus kids, he pays for them. You invited your immediate family, you pay for them. That should be the way going forward. Anytime he invites them, he shoulders the cost. Eventually he'll get tired and will stop. Not the idiot now for the update. So 2 weeks have passed since my last post, and oh boy did everything go sideways. First things first, I have to say that my dad and I had another massive argument after the Olive Garden debacle. It ended with him demanding I start paying him rent to live in his house. So I packed my bags, grabbed my sisters, and we moved out. I'm currently staying with a friend who was kind enough to take us in while we look for an apartment. We've also managed to find part-time jobs to sustain ourselves. It's tight, but we're making do. But hold on, the real drama isn't even about us. Just a few days after we moved out, my aunt's husband found out about the Olive Garden fiasco. Turns out she had been pulling similar stunts with him and his family for years, using his credit card without informing him. The Olive Garden incident was the straw that broke the camel's back, and he kicked her out. Her situation went from bad to worse when she got a visit from Child Protective Services. Apparently, some of her older kids' teachers had reported her for neglect and possible abuse. Now she's facing a legal battle to keep her children. My dad, despite everything, has taken her in. She's his sister after all, and is now dealing with a house full of her kids, on top of his own financial problems. The irony isn't lost on me. And to top it all, the Olive Garden has banned our entire family because my aunt tried to dine and dash shortly after our incident. She was caught on camera and the manager recognised her from the previous incident involving us. So yeah, that's been my life the past 2 weeks. It's been a whirlwind of drama, change, and honestly a lot of growing up. But honestly, despite everything, I think it's been a much-needed wake-up call for all of us. Thanks for listening, Reddit. I never imagined when I made my first post that things would spiral like this, but here we are. Now for the comments. 1. Not the idiot. It sounds like a whirlwind of events, but you're handling it well. Yes, you had a big argument with your dad, but it seems like the situation was already quite chaotic before that. You're doing your best in a tough situation, working part-time jobs and helping your sisters. Your aunt's actions are completely irresponsible, and it's good that her husband and CPS intervened. The Olive Garden ban is unfortunate, but it seems like a small price to pay for a necessary wake-up call. 2. Not the idiot. You're in an incredibly tough situation and you're doing your best to navigate through it. It's unfortunate that your father is facing financial difficulties, but that's not your burden to carry, especially considering the circumstances. You're doing right by your sisters and yourself by moving out of a toxic environment. Your aunt's behaviour is very concerning, and it's good that her kids are now in a safer place. Keep going, things will get better. 3. Not the idiot. You're doing a great job of handling a really difficult situation. It sounds like your argument with your dad was a symptom of a larger issue in your family. It's unfortunate that your family was banned from Olive Garden, but it seems like your aunt's actions were out of line, and she needed to face the consequences. You're also not responsible for your dad's financial problems. You're doing the best you can under the circumstances. Keep pushing forward. Now, for the next story. I've been with my wife since our senior year in high school. We have 6 kids between the ages of 7 and 15. I work Monday-Friday, with 14 hours on 3 days a week and 12 hours on 2 days. My wife is a stay-at-home mum. On my days off, I take the kids out, and my wife has the day to herself, or she goes out and I handle chores. I always remind my wife and take her out on date nights a few times a month on my days off. My sister comes by and helps out some days throughout the week. We had a financial crisis earlier this year, which resulted in me having these extra hours. It's completely necessary. 4 of our kids do extracurricular activities that we have to pay for, among other necessities. My wife has recently been asking me to cut back hours, which has been causing arguments because it's simply impossible at the moment. We have young twins, and earlier this week they got the flu, which spread throughout our home and caused the kids to stay home from school for the majority of the week. I could not call off, but it left my wife extremely stressed out. One of our children has autism, and when they are sick it is a very big crisis in the house with tantrums. I felt horrible, but I couldn't call off. Basically, today my wife shouted at me for over an hour for refusing to take fewer hours because she is so stressed. She said I get to escape at work and she has a household to run. I tried to explain that I'd love more than anything to be home more, but I couldn't. However, she continued yelling, saying I was the problem. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. No idiots here. I don't either of you is in the wrong. For you, it's impossible to take fewer hours because of your shared financial situation. You're working to provide your family with the necessities and keep a roof over your head. You can't sacrifice that. For her, she's stressed and overwhelmed from taking care of sick kids all day. It's understandable that she's worn out, but in the end, you're both working all day and need help and understanding from each other. Moving forward, I think the best thing to do is to have better communication and some sort of accommodation. She needs to not yell at you because it's not all about her. You are stressed as well. For the accommodation, does your sister have more free time to help her? Do you have parents that can come over? Neighbours that you trust even? It seems like things won't get better unless she somehow gets more help. Comment 2. No idiots here, but you need to have a sit down with your wife. Your current situation seems like it's unsustainable. I know your wife doesn't want to take away your kids' extracurricular stuff, but you seriously need to think about tightening the belt. Whether that means getting rid of the extracurricular stuff, cutting down on quality of life expenses, or moving somewhere cheaper. It seems like things are at their limit when everything is working out, but adding additional stress like the kids being sick, and your house of cards starts to fall apart. Plus, there may not be any guarantee your extra hours will always be there. Edited upon recommendation. Comment 3. I can't decide between no idiots here and ESH. Honestly, it sounds like you're both living in hell. This is one of the risks with having so many kids, one financial issue. And you're in this position. Obviously, you have the kids, so you can't change that now. But you both willingly had this many kids, knowing that kids are expensive and get sick often. This is just an awful situation for everyone, and unfortunately it won't last. Something's got to give here. Someone will blow up, or perhaps worse. Something needs to change, or there will be serious consequences. Have you thought about your own health OP between the work hours and emotional stress? Now for the update. Well guys, things took an unexpected turn for the better. In my last post I mentioned the heated argument I had with my wife about my long hours and her feeling overwhelmed with managing the household and our 6 kids. The situation was fairly grim and tensions were high, especially since our twins were down with the flu. So here's what happened. After another long shift I walked into my house expecting another round of arguments. The house was eerily quiet. The twins, thankfully, had recovered from the flu and were sleeping. My wife was sitting at the kitchen table, looking drained. My heart dropped, but before I could open my mouth to apologize or start a conversation, she just looked at me and said, "I know you're doing your best." I was taken aback, but that simple phrase felt like a weight had been lifted off my chest. She continued, "I was stressed out and I took it out on you. You're not escaping at work. You're working for us, for our family. I see that now." We had a long heart-to-heart conversation after that, something we hadn't done in ages. We realized that we had been so caught up in the chaos of our lives that we had stopped communicating effectively and started assuming the worst of each other. We agreed to hold regular open conversations to understand each other's expectations and stresses better. Another interesting development was her decision to start working part-time from home. She explained that she felt a need for something more than just household chores and child rearing. She was a graphic designer before our first was born, and she's decided to take up freelance gigs. This not only gives her a sense of individuality, but also helps with the finances, allowing me to potentially reduce my hours in the future. As for the kids, our oldest, who's 16, has started stepping up and helping around the house. We had a family meeting where we explained the situation, and it was heartwarming to see our children, even the younger ones, willing to pitch in. In conclusion, things are looking up. My wife and I are communicating better, and as a family we have become more understanding towards each other. We realise that just because we're parents, we don't have to carry the entire world on our shoulders. It's okay to ask for help, even from our kids. It's been a humbling experience, but in retrospect this struggle has brought us closer than ever before. So thank you Reddit for all the advice and for letting me vent. Onwards and upwards. Now for the comments. 1. Not the idiot. You were both stressed out and it led to an argument, but it's great that you both realised communication was the key issue and decided to work on it. It's incredibly important to understand each other's expectations and stresses to maintain a healthy relationship. Kudos on that too. No idiots here. It's clear that your wife was going through a tough time and perhaps didn't handle it in the best way initially. However, it's commendable that she recognised her mistake and apologised. It's also great to see that she's decided to work part-time, which will not only contribute financially, but also give her a sense of purpose and individuality. 3. Not the idiot. It's really heartwarming to see your oldest child stepping up to help around the house. It's a tough situation, but you seem to be navigating it well as a family. Being open about your needs and asking for help when necessary is crucial, and it's great that you all are doing that. Keep up the good work. Now for the next story. My spineless son Richard, who is 38 years old, has prioritised his wife and stepkids over his own daughter Hayley, who is 18 years old. It has happened multiple times, so I have decided to disinherit him and rescind his stepkids' 529 college funds. I'm not here for judgment on whether I should disinherit him or rescind the college funds, but if it's fair to my other 2 kids by leaving my granddaughter an equal share of my estate. The way my will is currently written, my estate will be split equally 3 ways. I have set up 529 funds for all my grandchildren, of which I am the sole owner, and that is all I planned for them to receive, except for family heirlooms. I'm seeing my lawyer Friday to make the change. My other 2 kids, who are 41 years old male and 36 years old female, say it's not fair to their kids. Everyone agrees that Richard, his wife and stepkids are disowned and out of the family. Richard is extremely upset, but you reap what you sow. He is certainly not going to leave anything to Hayley now. My other two kids have substantial assets themselves and will be leaving their assets to their children. I don't understand why, with this being the case, Hayley should not get her father's portion. They think I should leave his share to all the grandkids equally. I am not so convinced. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot, but it's strange how all your kids turned out this way. I perceive your other two children as being very greedy and heartless in this instance. Their niece is already facing life without a real father. Why are they so intent on grubbing every penny they can from your casket for themselves and their kids? Frankly, I give major side-eye to people who feel so entitled to make such selfish and unreasonable demands of a will. Please ensure that will is airtight so that your greedy children can't screw over your niece, and make sure you tell her while you're still alive that it would absolutely fly in the face of your final wishes if she were to capitulate to any emotional manipulation they may try to pull when you're gone. Comment 2. So you've split things 3 ways for each branch of your kids, and in one branch you're just skipping over the kid and giving it to his kid. Not the idiot. You're splitting things fairly between the 3 branches. You're doing it based on your kids, not on how many kids they have. If your other 2 kids want to give their portion to one of their kids, they can damned well do that. Edit. Additionally, now wondering if the 2 other kids push to disavow the 3rd for bigger portions to themselves. Comment 3. I think your plan is sound and fair. I assume Hayley is Richard's only child. Your other kids are being greedy, not the idiot. I annul, but my understanding of wills is that you should give Richard something, so he have a hard time contesting the will. He won't be able to claim he was overlooked. Also warn Hayley that Richard will be upset and might try to pressure her into giving him some or all of the money. Now for the update. Well, folks, let me start by saying I'm almost too exhausted to type this update, but the last 2 weeks have been a roller coaster and I think it's important to share. First, I had a long talk with Richard. I told him how I felt about his treatment of Hayley. It was emotional and tear-filled, but I believe it was necessary. He listened. Really listened, and said he'd been unaware of how much his actions were affecting Hayley, but that he wanted to fix it. He promised to make more of an effort with her, which was encouraging. A couple of days later, I got a call from my lawyer. Apparently, news of my potential will change had reached him. Thanks for nothing. Local gossip mill. He strongly advised against disinheriting Richard, said it could lead to a drawn-out legal battle that could tear the family apart even more. Not wanting that, I met with him to discuss other options. Then came the bombshell. Richard's wife, out of the blue, filed for divorce. She found out about my plans to disinherit Richard and rescind the college funds for her kids. She didn't take it well. There were accusations of Richard marrying her for the money. They are currently in the middle of a messy divorce. In light of these developments, I held off on changing the will. My focus shifted to supporting Richard and Hayley through this tough time. They've actually been spending a lot more time together recently, which has been a silver lining through all of this. Meanwhile, my other 2 kids, seeing the chaos unfold, have softened their stance on the will. They've realised that ensuring their kids fair treatment is more important than fighting over inheritance. So for now, the will remains unchanged. Richard and Hayley's relationship is improving, and I'm hopeful that we can rebuild from here. It's been a hard lesson, but I think it's brought some much-needed perspective to all of us. I'm holding off on any decisions about the will until the dust settles. We'll keep you posted as things progress. Thanks for all the advice and support. Now, for the comments, not the idiot. It's commendable that you're taking a step back in the interest of family harmony. It's a tough situation, but focusing on supporting Richard and Hayley through the divorce is the right move. Also, it's great that your other kids are starting to understand the complexity of the situation. Not the idiot, but be cautious moving forward. It's clear that you're dealing with a delicate situation, and any rash decisions could cause more harm than good. Your lawyer gave sound advice. Disinheriting Richard could lead to unwanted legal battles. It's wise to wait until things settle before making any decisions about the will. Not the idiot. You're in an unenviable position and are clearly trying to do what's best for your family. Richard's wife filing for divorce adds another layer of complexity to the situation. It's good that you're postponing changes to the will. Your focus right now should be on supporting your family through this difficult time. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.